Welcome to the Dobsonian Power channel, night sessions, where we usually point a telescope and watch the sky in real time. But tonight it's a special night, it's a different night, and if you like astrophotography especially, and if you like, maybe you like to do it with a Dobsonian, you know that I'm used to do, and it's what I love to do, to watch the sky, to do live stacking with my Dobsonians and get that instant gratification. And I do just a quick astrophotography. I don't have much patience for that. But some of you maybe like to do that astrophotography in a higher level, or you're trying to, maybe to fill your time, maybe to get peace of mind doing that. It's possible. Maybe to get that higher level picture at the end that you want to print and post in your living room or whatever, but you love to do astrophotography. So tonight it will be the opening of a special section that we will have more in this channel, and hopefully you will like. Is the reaction. So the reaction is a new section, and what does it mean? It means that I will be reacting to OPC, other people's content. In this case, I will put you now in context, and we will react to a video. The rest of the live stream will be as usual. You can comment whatever you want. Hello Linux, Jelloman, Tuloco, Astrocade, Jen Amarian, Antonio Cortez, Obscurity, Astrocade, West Coast Winds, Dobsonian Power. Of course, the Dobsonian Power is always with us, always present. Dobsonian Power. Book Davis, GD Player, Oxize, welcome Fabio, welcome you all, Adam, Bartek. Okay, so let me put you in context first. I will show you first. Let's see if this works well to repeat. First I will put you in context. Remember that video, some of you may remember that video where the title was "Huge Astro Company Accepts Dobsonian for Astrophotography." During all these years, you probably get... Let me share the screen correctly, like this. This was a video that is in my channel, which basically I picked from I based on a video from Skywatcher, where they do in their channel, Skywatcher, they do a contest with different pictures, and it was amazing, so that's why I did the video. One of the pictures, I will put you now in context, hold on. Those pictures was from a Dobsonian telescope. It was from Stephen Miller, and this was the reaction of Kevin, the Skywatcher member.
Steve Miller got some good stuff. This was with a 12-inch Dob, which was crazy.
You saw that? Crazy.
Crazy.
And from many pictures, Kevin picked that one also to insert in a group to enhance in that live stream. A 12-inch Dobsonian for astrophotography. Okay, this is enough for you to get into context. This was a part of the video where Stephen Miller, and stick with this name because Stephen Miller will be our hero tonight. And to put you in context, he, with a 12-inch Dobsonian, took that amazing picture, sent to us to Skywatcher, and was one of the ones Kevin chose to enhance in his video. So Stephen Miller, 12-inch Dobsonian, and the ZWO 2600. An amazing picture. Even Kevin was amazed with this result. So after that, what I didn't know was that and it was very funny, because I was talking with Stephen Miller without knowing that was this guy, because he is on Cloudy Nights and I speak with some people on Cloudy Nights. Sometimes I don't watch the message box regularly, but sometimes once in a while I go there, and I was speaking with him, but the name there, the username is S Miller, so I didn't realize it was the same guy. And I was wondering, I wish I could know this guy, because he does a pretty amazing job with the Dobsonian, and many people like to do more astrophotography at an higher level. It will be great to know him. And I think it was 2 days ago, I will show you first where I saw it, in this YouTube channel. Hold on. It's the Astro Imaging Channel. So this is a YouTube channel, very nice, TAEIC, the Astro Imaging Channel. I asked, it is a team that's there, and I listened to them. They are almost reaching 15,000 subscribers. So let's give them a hand, because I'm subscribed to this channel. I don't watch every shows that they publish, but sometimes they have very interesting ones, and I click on them, as I did with this one. They did 2 days ago deep sky astrophotography with a Go-To Dobsonian, and of course I had to click to see what was going on, and it was amazing, because I will show you now. Hold on. And it was an interview to precisely Stephen Miller. Hey, Astro team. Hey, Stephen Miller is here. Stephen Miller is in a house. Okay, thank you for coming, Stephen Miller. I have to tell you that I messaged him in Cloudy Nights, and I said to him, hey, this is the link to a live stream. I will react to your interview. So if you wanna go there, join us, because it will be interesting, and maybe people want to ask you some questions. Now, before I start to react to this wonderful interview, I want to ask you, and please community, tell me in the chat. This is not prepared. This was not prepared. He doesn't know. But now I feel that it will be fun, maybe, to have him on camera after the reaction. So tell me in the chat, community, if you would like me to invite him to come here, jump in the live stream on camera, and ask and answer your questions at the end, because I'm sure you will see the video is amazing. Do you want to tell me yes or no in the chat if you want Stephen Miller to come at the end? If you don't want, I will not invite him, and that's okay. Yes, please. Yes, very cool format, Thiago. It's Astrotip, I'm always changing, adapting. Yes, and the moon is super bright. The weather is windy, but the moon is super bright. We will on Friday probably on Friday, a public live stream celebrating the full moon, and a more broadband live stream to have a chat, basically. It's an excuse to be with you. And also on Saturday, don't forget, members of this YouTube channel, we will have a live stream just for members, where we will break down again the sequencer. We will test some sequences that Rao posted on our Discord server. It will be very nice to test them. I will be with a telescope just for the test, to test them and see. And if you have some sequences and you are a channel member, take the chance on Saturday and bring them to the chat, because I can break them down and see if anything is wrong or if anything that you can improve on the sequence, because it's a powerful tool to live stack. Okay, so yes, nobody says no. So Steve, sure, Stephen Miller, I will post a link on the chat. Hold on, let me see. And one. Okay, I will post a link. You only have to click on the link. If you want to, we will have time, because first I will react to your interview. And just click on it and prepare your camera and microphone. You have time, because I will... Guys, I strongly recommend you to subscribe to the Astro Imaging Channel and watch the full interview there. I will not watch everything here. It's a 1 hour interview. I will pick some points that I think they are important to this channel or to this community. But please subscribe to them. Help them to get those, to reach those 1,500 subscribers. It will be not 1,500, 15,000 subscribers. It will be a good thing for them, and they are very, very nice also. And I promise you that I will not send you to subscribe to anyone that I will think that was not worth it. Okay, you know that. So let's open this. So this is, hold on. So this is the logo of the it's a T, the telescope, the Astro Imaging Channel. And I will start by the end, because you know that I like a lot the human component of our Dobsonian Power channel. So I will start by the end to show you the face of Stephen Miller. This is Stephen Miller, okay? And here is at the side, it is the team they have. And here is Alex McConaughey, Conahey, I hope I'm spelling it right, which is the host of their show. So just for you to know the faces first. And now we will go straight to, let me see where it was. Okay, we will start here. This was the telescope he was showing, the 12-inch, that you saw the picture took from it. And he was telling here the simple setup at the beginning. So the battery to the scope power, because this is a Go-To. I remember you, this is a Go-To Orion 12-inch Dobsonian. Okay, and a mirror fan. Then remember that you will ask, I have already Steven here pending, nobody can see him, but you can ask any question at the end. I think here it's the right place to do that, because you are all always very, very communicative and excited about everything. So while I'm reacting, you think in some questions, I'm sure you will have. So this was...
the scope power from that, and I had a little mirror fan on the back, and I always had that, so it cooled this.
So he's saying that he has a mirror. He had a mirror fan. You will see the evolution of this setup. The scope power to the Go-To, and then he had the camera, which is, by the way, an excellent camera. Okay, the 2600. It's an excellent camera. It's cooled also by an USB cable to the laptop. This is basically what I use here in the live streams. But in addition to that, he has, as it has a Go-To, he has with a handle controller, he uses a cable to the Go-To. used because it was transforming over time. He used also, this is a thing that I never used here, but it can be also a good hint for you, a good tip that for you that live in cold places, because it connected this kind of heater here, okay, and to get a better environment, mainly for the telescope. You will say here, hold on.
Battery all night. And I actually have a little heater. It's a little deck heater, infrared heater, that I put on a ladder, and I set it about 8 feet away from my setup behind the scope. And it kind of just gives a little bit of heat to the area because I have a lot of dew in my area. And this just kind of keeps the dew away in general. The whole kind of area just kind of keeps dew free, which is kind of...
So you see, use this heater. This is I had one of those in many years ago. Now we use different heaters, but this is very strong. This kind of heater is super fast and it's very strong. And using this below the telescope, you have to, I suppose he makes sure that the heat wouldn't mess with the top of the telescope, but he managed a way, we can ask him later, he managed a way to avoid the dew. It's a very smart way to avoid the dew around the telescope. So for the people that struggle with that, you have another solution here.
Nice. So how far can you take this Dobsonian imaging? I mean, what can you do? So...
Okay, I will jump a bit. Because I watched the interview, I know more or less what the... So, how far can I take the Dob imaging? Everybody knows. I was warned, your problems are many, starting with an ambition that exceeds the ability of your equipment. It's easy to realize that we have many things in common, me and Stephen Miller, and many of you also, because we are hit many times, oftentimes, by the problems with Dobsonian to do astrophotography. And he say here, I took that as a challenge, and it was very, very nice. 3 enormous equipment upgrades. So here he start to evolve his setup, and look what he bought, a Nexus, stars on a Nexus, which, by the way, you know very well, the ones that are regular here, that I use a lot. I have the... Steven is saying, heading to the information, that he is on Bortle 6 or 7. If you want to, meanwhile, ask some questions in the chat, and if Steven wants to answer just with a phrase, I'm watching what Steven is writing. Okay, Steven, if you want to, meanwhile, then at the end we will put you on camera and we can go deeper in the business. So the stars on the Nexus, I strongly recommend. Me either didn't didn't buy this at the beginning. Pardon. Because it was it is very expensive. It's around $500. But with time, I realized that were 500 very well spent bucks. And he bought this one. I don't have it. It's a 2600 MC. So I don't have this one because for a matter of a question of budget, because it's an expensive camera. But I would prefer this one rather than my 294. The 294, when I advise you the 294, is because of the balance I find with the price and the results that we can get with a Dob or a Newtonian or any other telescope. Because with the refractor that I use here, it works very well. And as some of you know, the Nexus, which is made just for Newtonians, worked not 100%, but almost in the refractor. Just 1 or 2 stars in the corners. But the rest of them, the field is very well corrected. So without spending additional money.
Oh, we make these in special batches. We're finding a lot of people have Newtonians with not enough back focus, and we're starting to sell a lot of these. So apparently there's people out there that are doing something like I'm doing. I just don't know who they are. And then I got a dual band narrow band filter. I'm in light polluted skies. I want to shoot some of these dimmer nebula that are emission nebula. This cuts out essentially 94% of the light pollution, and it only lets these two narrow bands through, the oxygen and hydrogen alpha. That's kind of the blue.
Okay, I will stop here. You see that another upgrade he did. It's this NBZ from IDAS, 48 millimeters. So it's a 2-inch, which is a narrow band filter. I'm more or less at this point because I just ordered. It will arrive next week. They sent already. But I chose a different one. I chose the Altair quad band. Why I chose the Altair quad band? Because I'm on Bortle 5. Remember that Steven is on Bortle 6-7. So the filter he bought is more narrow than mine. So it cuts more light. It enhances more contrast of the nebulae. But mine, as I don't want to catch too much, so I chose the softer filter of the narrow band filters, let's say like that. It's more or less what I did in the broadband filters. I had the opportunity to get the Optolong L Pro filter, which is a broadband filter, not a narrow band. It's a broadband filter, so it cut almost no light. It just cut light pollution and different bands, but not so narrow. And I preferred over the L Pro. I chose the Baader Neodymium, which many of you also have, and also the L Pro, because on my Bortle 5 I compared both and I realized that the Baader Neodymium is softer and worked better in my sky. That doesn't mean that will work better for you. The Baader Neodymium, it could be better. The L Pro, the same thing with narrow band. I chose and this is very important, I chose the softer one from the narrow band filters because of that, and in addition to that, because I do EAA. My thing is electronically assisted astronomy, so I do live stack with short exposures. What it does is what many of you are doing right now is to record the raw frames and do the astrophotography later. So pick that frames and post-process. So it shows the right filter for him, for his situation.
Green and the red that you see from emission nebula. And so then I started going on a shooting spree and just kind of going around. Anything popped up. A couple of these are from dark sky locations when I visited family. Most of these are from the backyard.
Look at these pictures. The Iris Nebula, the bubble, the wizard, and the image here on YouTube, it's not so good. Ghost of Cassiopeia, Pac-Man here at the right. The Crescent Nebula, look how easily he could make pop all the nebula here. Cocoon, Eagle, Elephant Trunk, which is very hard, at least for me it's very hard. Hopefully with the narrowband filter I can do better live streams, live stacking using that filter with this kind of nebulae. So wonderful images.
You know, most of these are done in an hour or two. A couple of these I took 4 hours of time to do. But anyway, and so for me, this was beyond what I thought this job would be able to do. And it was those 3 upgrades that really enabled it. I'm going to pause again for questions. I'll give you a chance to unmute.
Okay, let's move on.
Be coming up or not.
Left deals with field rotation smearing.
Okay,
if I take 8-second exposures.
This was the field rotation problem that we have because he has also an alt-azimuth mount, so you get used to that field rotation. He was explaining that. You can see that field rotation mainly when I use the Virtuoso 6-inch Go-To in the live streams, and you can see that black, those black hedges at the top or at the sides of the image. That means that the image is rotating, and the stars that those regions were gone already. So Sharpcap derotates. If the shorter the exposures, this was told by Robin from Sharpcap, the shorter the exposures, the easiest will be to Sharpcap to work with a rotation. If you go until 15 seconds more or less, it will be the maximum with a decent derotation of the own software, not with a derotator. The own software try to compensate that. So the solution he gave here, short exposures deals with field rotation. 8-second exposures is usually fine. Notice that is precisely what I usually do. The exposures that you are used to see me doing here in the live streams are 4 seconds when it's too windy and I can't deal with the telescope and the wind. But usually I use 8 seconds. Sometimes I go to 10 depending on the conditions and the tracking. So we found, very important for the people that have Dobsonians, 8 seconds, he found that is a sweet spot.
That's usually fine. There's only a couple areas of sky where you want to cut it down. And quite a few of the areas you could take longer with an APS-C. See, those some of these stacking software are pretty good. See it drift off, and then Nina pushes it back every once in a while. This is over like 4 hours, so this is just showing you real quick. But you can see the field rotating.
So he's showing the rotation live, and also explaining that he used Nina. So I use Sharpcap, he used Nina, a feature of Nina to recentering after drift. It does a different work, as you can see by the movement here that he showed.
Drift. You see it drift off, and then Nina pushes it back every once in a while. This is over like 4 hours, so this is just showing you real quick. But you can see the field rotating in the camera over time, and then it's drifting to the lower right constantly, but Nina's constantly shoves it back every 15 minutes. It has to kind of go whoop. And when it's doing that, it stops taking pictures, it repositions the scope, that takes about 20 seconds, and it starts taking pictures again.
So a very nice explanation about that. Now here is basically telling what many of you already know, because here sometimes I struggle when I point to zenith and the rotation is higher. He says here on zenith, he says here danger zones for 8-second exposures at 45-degree latitude. So in this with a APS-C camera, with these conditions, he realized that near zenith, so more or less 70 degrees up until 90, is this red zone. It's the danger zone. So it's the worst part of the sky. And you can see that in real time when I point to zenith and I'm struggling even to point a telescope and then the rotation. Let's see a bit more. The software he uses, well, it's not a software that I like too much, but he for him it works well. Well, I don't like any software right now of astrophotography except Topaz Denoise, which is pretty fast, and I'm lazy. So he's saying here AstroPixel processor. So we use this. Let me see what is.
So I had a lot of vignetting, lots of drift and field rotation, lots of frame overlap, and it was low in the sky, lots of light pollution. So when I put it into Serial, this is what it looked like. This mess. Look at this.
He also uses Serial, another software that I really don't like. But it's important for you to know other people results. This is the main goal of this reaction, for you to see other kind of tools that other people use to obtain different results than you. I know that some of you use Affinity Photo, another one use PixInsight, another one use Serial, but I don't know if you use AstroPixel or whatever the name is. AstroPixel processor. And some of you may use Astap also. I don't know. There are many softwares available, and he's working with this, and he's explaining right here why is that.
You know, it was kind of garbage. So I thought, oh my God, you know, maybe I'll just take one set of the panels and just call that an image and be done with it. But I put an Astro Pixel processor and turn on its multi-band blending, and it did a lot smoother job. I mean, there's a lot of light pollution there, but those seams are greatly reduced. And when you the final image, it's not bad.
You see the final image, very nice image. So it works for him. And now he's talking about narrowband. With narrowband, you need long exposures. Now short exposures are going to kill you for sure. These are cliches, phrases that people usually jump with them. They have them already in their minds, so they stick usually with those. But he proved the opposite.
Kill you for sure, you know, because you're doing narrowband, okay? But let's check the math. Let's go back to that Robin Glover video, and I'm
okay. Let's stop here. First, let me tell you that narrowband, I knew already that it works with live stacking, which is my thing. He's talking about astrophotography. I'm talking about live stacking. So in addition to astrophotography, I also knew that it worked very well to live stacking, because on Cloudy Nights in the EAA forum, they have loads of pictures using filters much more aggressive than these ones, like the L Extreme from Optolong. So if it works for an L Extreme on Bortle 6 or 7, it will work for me with a softer narrowband filter in Bortle 5. That's the same mentality that I always insist for you to use, to have that mindset. If I can do it, you can do it. You see, it's simple as that. And if Stephen Miller could do it and can do it, because it's still doing, you can do it also. It's a matter of options. Now I want to stop here because he brought here a table, and this table I will show you, because it's from Robin from Sharpcap made an event, and this channel, which is Astrofarsography, which I also recommend if you are into astrophotography. Okay, you have here a good video. I leave here. Then after the stream, I will post all of these links at the description, so you can easily click and go. This is a long video. Is about also 1 hour, and it's very technical. But here Robin made a table where he explains with different Bortle levels and focal ratio, in this case from f4 to f10, the optimum exposure time. And you can see that they are pretty low. So I suggest you first to subscribe to Astrofarsography if you like astrophotography, then go to this video and watch it. Let's move on a bit because he has another one. And here he has a graphic. I will read for you because it's too low. Let me see if I can magnify a bit. Yes. No. Hold on. I want you to see that graph only. Where is it? Here. Okay. This is the table that Stephen Miller showed and used to get the optimal exposure. And here is the thermal noise, sensor temperature, and he used different cameras. 183 yellow here, CMOS camera, 294 CMOS, also here, which is mine here. And you can see here the red one. And this is the evolution. While the sensor temperature increase, the evolution of the noise, you can see, okay? And he found the optimal points for you to work with. This is very useful for astrophotography, basically. So let's come back to our Stephen Miller interview.
I'm not going to go through the exact math in this case. I'm going to try to save a little bit of time. But essentially, now that I'm using this larger camera, I have the reducer on there, so my scope's f3.7, so I can use this starting number of 2.8 seconds. And I have a really low read noise. So the basic broadband math is that I need a 1.3 second exposure for a color camera or a 0.45 second for a mono camera. So I'm starting really low, but now we're doing narrowband. Well, my narrowband filter is a 12 nanometer width filter.
Now he's calculating his number for narrowband, because for narrowband it will be harder.
And so I need to multiply this by 25. And so that 4.45 seconds, it turns into 11 seconds. So I need to shoot an 11-second exposure to stay within 5% read noise. I'm not quite there. I'm at 8 seconds. Maybe that sounds bad, but that means read noise adds only 7% total noise to the stack.
Okay, so we found his number, 8 seconds, and it's curious because 350 is the gain, and it's the gain that I use all the time also. So basically was the... I want just to tell you one thing. I knew this interview before. I watched this a while ago. And although it's a good reference for us, I suggest you that don't stick only with the formula, as you show here the formula. Find something up and down that number that you found from the table, and play with them to see if for some reason it works better. Imagine that you find 8 seconds. Try 6, 7, 9, 10, and play with those numbers in different nights. This is my suggestion. I always like to experiment, and I'm sure Stephen did the same, but just to reinforce that.
Always going to have. It's that camera read noise you're trying to avoid. Well, you see that I filtered down to 6 seconds or 4 seconds.
What he explained was the difference. This with 8 seconds. This is the total stack noise, but the blue is the sky noise and the orange is only the read noise. So it showed here the difference with a narrow band and with dark skies. And they say here, what I left on the table not doing long exposures. You see, so the difference, you can explain better this stuff
maybe my
if you're
tracking's terrible. The field rotation in the shots, if the scope's pointing really high in the sky, you'll start to see it. And
so here he explains the trade-off of the exposure time. If you do longer exposures, elongated stars, what happened to me a lot, that you see, tracking drift, inconsistent stars, tracking roughness, field rotation visible in shots, and generally fewer details, softer image. That you can see in real time when I do the live streams, my problems, okay? And with shorter exposures, the computer spends, and this is astrophotography focused, remember. The computer spends hours stacking, lots of data to store, this only for astrophotography, not for me. More read noise, you notice when I crank down the live stack gain, the live stack exposures, shorter exposures, the image gets noisy, more noisy. Generally, more detailed, sharper image, lower total productivity, delays between shots. Okay, these are the the consequences of using short or longer exposures. And this is about the cameras. This is a document that I want to enhance here. I will leave the link at the description. Remember, after the stream I forgot to place the links, but I have them. I will place after the stream. And this is a document he sent me a while ago, and it has a link. It's free, you can download it. It's in my opinion, Steven, this is a book. This is really a book, more than 130 pages. It's a very deep document basically about using a Go-To Dob. Deep sky imaging with a scene scan Go-To Dob, because it's a scene scan. It says not really a guide, but hopefully helpful information on this topic. So I will not go deep into this document. If you want, I will leave the link. Take the chance while it's free. I'm joking because I don't know if this will be any time a book, but it's right now it's free and it's valuable, so you can download it. It's a very nice work. So let's jump the document. Here, the biggest issues with deep sky with a Go-To Dob.
A terabyte of intermediate storage while it's doing its work. And so you just need these big, fast SSD drives just to have it do its work. So what's to the rescue? So two things, Moore's Law and serial are coming to the rescue. So Moore's Law, big computer, fast computer help.
Table is for Robin Glover of Sharpcap, says Steven. A presentation he gave, available on YouTube. Yeah, of course, it's that link. I will leave the link. All the links that I'm speaking about and showing will be at the description. So the filter only lets through 1/25 of the amount of light pollution. Impressive stuff, Steven, says Jaloman. Love how deep you went into theory and really figured stuff. Okay, this is the laptop he used, 8-core. It's a gaming laptop. I also use a gaming laptop, strongly recommended. He has 2 terabytes, 64 gigs of RAM. Actually, is exactly what I have. I have 64, and I have 2 discs of 1 terabyte each, I think. Let me see. I don't even know. Yes, I have 1 terabyte each disc. So this is a fast telescope. It's very good to handle all those softwares. And use Astro Pixel processor, as we stated already. My robust go-to solution. So he likes this, but you can use any software. 8-second exposures. Stacking takes 1-2 hours for every 1 hour of shooting. Use serial, deep sky stacker, but much lower quality results for rotating fields. I actually don't like very much deep sky stacker. And remember that for Dobsonians, and this is my experience, with the Dobsonians, it's the deep sky stacker, it's a bit awkward. Let me see here. And thank you, Drift Force, for your super chat. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Drift Force, also a YouTube channel member here and a very supportive person here, very nice people. Thanks for your support of this project. Now let's come back. Pix Inside is about 2x slower than APP, Astro Pixel processor, and good quality, but still a bit lower quality for rotating fields. So this is just his opinion. You don't have to feel bad about your software. I believe each one of us choose the software that fits better. For instance, for me, that I really don't like complicated solutions. I'm waiting. I had this conversation today or yesterday on Discord with you. I'm waiting for a software that does the basics, everything that you do with all this stuff, but with a push of a button, like I do with Topaz Denoise. Click the button and it cleans the noise. But I want a software that cleans the noise, and according to my settings that I want you to do this, and that. I just click a button and it goes. That software doesn't exist right now, but 100% believe, I 100% believe that will be in the future. It's a matter of time, and maybe not too much. Let's jump here about the software. So a summary here.
NINA solves it with plate solving. Field rotation over an entire imaging run. You use a kind of a summary. So you have no guiding, mediocre tracking. So the solution is short exposures. That pretty much solves it. Field rotation during exposures. Solution, once again, short.
So he's giving the challenges here and the solutions. So no guide scope, mediocre tracking, which is mine. Solution, short exposures, 4 to 10 seconds. Works exactly what I do. See how much we have in common? Except the astrophotography stuff, the rest it's all the same. Field rotation during exposures. Solving with 4 to 10 second exposures. This is very, very valuable information. I strongly recommend the ones that have Adobe, go to that channel, to Astro Imaging Channel, to watch the full interview, and also pay attention to this and put your questions.
Exposures. Drifting off target because this thing doesn't have a guide scope.
NINA solves it. The drifting is his solution. I don't use NINA, but many of you use.
NINA solves it with plate solving. Field rotation over an entire imaging run. You use a high quality stacker like APP with multi-band blending.
Of course.
The short exposure read noise, modern cameras solve that. If you went back and went to an old CCD camera from 20 years ago, you know, the noise would be a huge issue.
Of course.
In doing short exposures. But with modern cameras, less so of an issue.
And they will be much better in the future. Don't have any doubt about it.
And then long stacking times, that's still an issue. There are solutions. Serial staying fast and pretty good quality. Computers are getting a little bit faster. If your camera is a small pixel camera, just shoot in bin 2, which is shoot at lower resolution, because this scope, these Dobsonian scopes have a long focal length. They're really zoomed in. And so often your resolution is, you're seeing limited. You're not limited by your camera. So you can actually shoot the cameras quite often in lower resolution. And that saves a lot of time, obviously.
So this is the solution for long stacking times. This is an astrophotography solution. I don't use it, but okay. And mono imaging plus filter wheels.
And then, you know, if you're going to try to do something like mono imaging, filter wheels, I certainly haven't tried it. I would think it's not a good fit. First off, I think this Dob is good for just basic astrophotography. If you try to push it too far, I think, you know, you're just going to create a lot of work for me.
What we tell here every time, if you want to go to a higher level astrophotography, use a Newtonian over an equatorial mount. Let's go here. Advantages of Dob imaging. If you already have one and want to dabble into AP, why not?
a classic, you know, equatorial mounted rig later, that's fine. You can start here. It does have a big aperture and a low focal ratio, so it's pretty cost effective. It's a lot of photon gathering power for the money, to tell you the truth. And then I can dolly it out onto the yard on a piece of plywood and do a 2-star alignment. It's pretty darn easy, really, to set up and go. For me, it's a decent jack-of-all-trades scope. I can do deep sky observing. It's a wonderful scope. Dobsonians are wonderful deep sky scopes. I can do nice electronic-assisted astronomy sessions. I have people over, I had some friends over, and I just set it up and I just start doing it. And both those images were done in 6 minutes, so you get nice images in 6 minutes. With it. You know, it's great for gatherings and a party. It's pretty easy to do a good job on planets with them. You can do some lunar and solar white light. And then you can do some deep sky stuff. So for me, it's kind of fun. Does a little bit of everything.
You see what we usually say here? And by the way, another thing that made me think that you are not Steven Miller on Cloudy Nights was that we have a Steve Miller, a member of this channel also. So there are many Steve Millers. I receive loads of communication from everywhere, from social networks, from Discord, everything, from YouTube. And I will never think my brain couldn't connect in a way that gave that click to see, no, this is Steven Miller. So basically what we were telling all this time, why I chose the Dobsonian to do this. I didn't choose. I had the Dobsonian, the 12-inch, and I improved it in a way that spending less money, I could benefit from my aperture and do loads of stuff. And the proof is here. He did the same. He had a Dobsonian and he improved it in a way, in a very wise way, to take benefit of all these things: planetary imaging, visual observation, sun imaging, solar imaging, lunar, nebulae, galaxies, planetary nebulae, and having just fun with a nice telescope. It's so simple, so simple. So, and I think, now we talked about the alt-azimuth scopes, the Virtuoso, which I strongly recommend for beginners. As you know, it's an easy entry point, below $500. It has it all. Here he kindly put my name of the channel there. Appreciate a lot. And more questions. Pictures he picked from different people with a Dobsonian to give an example. And you are used to this because all these pictures are common right now, more and more. And now he's speaking about the camera size. So that feature we speak a lot in this channel. I will place it anyway.
Millimeter. Then if you try to do something like this small hamburger galaxy, that's a pretty small galaxy. You can't even frame it. And the other thing is that it may be cheap, and there may be no coma, no vignetting, and so forth. It's such a small sensor. But even one small galaxy doesn't fit. It may not find enough stars to stack. You have trouble stacking when you have such a small field of view. And the target drifts out of the field of view so fast. And plate solving often doesn't work. So that's red. I give that a red. I give this one a green. So a medium-sized planetary camera, like 11 by 6 millimeter. It's kind of a smallest I'd get. They're still fairly cheap. Still a small sensor, so you don't have coma or vignette or some of the optical defects you see in a Newtonian. And a galaxy will fit. And usually you have plenty of stars to stack, and it plate solves. This kind of works pretty well. An APS-C camera also works well. It's pretty big, but it's not so big that you start running into the real issues when using it into a Newtonian. Other than coma, you probably want to get a coma corrector for this. There's ones that are about $120 that work pretty well. So you can buy more expensive ones, but you probably want to get one of those. But in general, pretty well controlled. Still small enough sensor that's not causing big problems.
Important information here. If you have a DSLR, take benefit also of that DSLR. If you want to buy an Astro camera, and I want to add something here, because I play a lot with the budget. If you have the budget, for instance, I had a budget for a 294, it's, in my opinion, better than a 585. But what he said is that a 585, it's also a balanced choice, instead of going too small as a 224, for instance, which has a very, very small sensor. So I agree with him. The 585 and also other cameras in that range have already those cameras have already a decent field of view, and it's always a matter of field of view and budget. The larger the field of view, the more you have to spend. That's why I don't have the 2600, and I would love to have it, of course. So the cameras Now, recommendation.
Basic operation, know how to get good alignment, know how to locate some of your basic objects. You're kind of halfway there, because if you know how to use the telescope, then putting a camera in there and taking a few pictures is not a huge leap. If you have a DSLR, that's a big money saver. Like I mentioned how expensive that APS-C camera was for Astro, $1,800. I mean, some of the most expensive things for astrophotography are the cameras, are the dedicated cameras, especially larger sensor ones. So if you have a DSLR, that's a big deal.
You see, if you have a DSLR, my recommendation is always, don't buy a DSLR. Go straight to an Astro camera. But I'm more flexible right now. Imagine that you are obsessed. There are people, and we have to think in different people. Imagine that you are obsessed with shooting things in daylight, like, I don't know, birds or whatever. Then it's a good investment because you will take benefit during the day and during the night. But if you have the budget, you want to have this DSLR during the day and that Astro camera during the night. If you think, well, but I don't want to spend too much on the Astro camera because I don't know very well, I take good pictures during the day, but during the night with a telescope, I'm a beginner. The recommendation Stephen Miller gave, it's a good recommendation. A fair priced camera like a 585 with a good sensor size, enough for you to start.
If you don't have a camera and you're thinking of an Astro cam, I'd consider starting with one of these mid-range planetary cameras, like the ASI 585s MC. And there's some other ones, anywhere from about $400 to $600. They're big enough that you can use for planetary, lunar, solar, and deep sky. And I still use mine for planetary, lunar, and solar because they have such high frame rates. So they're always useful.
I want to add something here. If you don't have the budget for the 585, and I can't. I spend lots of money in a telescope. I spend lots of money in the DSLR, but I want an Astro camera to do something. You can even go lower than that with the 224. I don't recommend, but the 224, if you like, for instance, all sky. I do lots of all sky with the 224, which is good to watch meteors and things like that. It didn't touch that point, but it's also a good advantage. I still use it for that. Not so much for planetary by laziness, because I have already the 294 and works well for planetary also, and it's not so noisy. So it's a matter of choice here.
So it's a great place to start. And then you can learn if you really want to be doing this. You can also consider just doing electronic assisted astronomy to start with.
Yeah.
I kind of think of that as deep sky light because it's stacking right there in real time. You don't have to learn a lot of different software, and it's kind of you kind of get immediate gratification. And I think it's a great way to learn some of the basics. Also, doing lunar and planetary are easy and good first steps. If you are going to do your first deep sky attempt with the cameras, I would say make sure to find a small, bright target that you're good at locating already. And don't commit a long time on it. These Dobs gather a lot of photons quickly. So 20 minutes should get you a satisfying result as a first image. And then if you have a really small pixel camera, shoot it in lower resolution mode. They call that bin 2. That'll just save you a lot of heartache and a lot of time stacking. And finally, much of the magic is in the processing. When you see really good astro photos people posted, so much of that is in the processing. Here's an example. So often, on cloudy nights, someone will post an image. They say, I took this image and I can't get a good image. How do you guys do this? Here's a fine example someone posted. They were frustrated. So what happens, they upload the image and all these people on cloudy nights jump all over it. They start editing it. And of course, by that time, usually there's a dozen people that have edited it. And this is what it looked like afterwards.
This is a product of misinformation. The people that usually, and I strongly believe that as the Dobsonian had his time, a long time since John Dobson, with only a good telescope for visual, which were natural at that time. Now with all this stuff that we have now, and that we will have, it's natural that we can integrate everything. it's still a Dobsonian. It will be a Dobsonian telescope. It's only that has more features that we can add to it, and it's amazing to do that. But it's still a Dobsonian. The people that you listen that, oh, it's not a Dobsonian because as a go-to or as... Don't listen to them, because they are those people that stuck in that past, that visual only past, and they didn't evolve. That's in all aspects of your daily life. You will see people around you, at your job, everywhere, at the street, that you speak with them, and you notice that, well, this guy didn't evolve. He thinks in a old fashion, but it's not classic. It's really old. It's like a dinosaur way of thinking. So I love Stephen Miller mentality and mindset. It's exactly what I feel about my life here. I love the sky, as you love, and playing with what we have and improving it in a way that we spend less and benefit more. And the Dobsonian gives us that, you know very well. I'm telling this for the ones that will watch the replay. So I think basically here the future. Okay, let me see the future of the Dob imaging.
I think if just a small percentage of that effort was now put into improving something like alt-as Dob imaging, I think it could become pretty easy.
Of course.
There's been some recent introductions that have really helped. That Nexus reducer without the collar was a big deal. Nina has some new features and really improved performance for short exposures. Serial added some new features. They do full frame stacking, where that if it's rotated frames, they will stack it into a larger picture. Astrofarsographer has gotten a lot faster in the last 9 months that I've used it. There's general technology advancements. So sensor technology is pretty much good enough, but it's still continuing to improve. The latest cameras just came out from Sony, like the SI 585, have some improvements. They're just better quantum efficiency, bigger well depth, lower noise. And then Moore's Law. I mean, computers are continuing. It's creeping along a little bit, but it's not going as fast as it used to. But every couple of years, things are faster. SSD drives are bigger, so those will help. I think if I had my wish list of a few targeted solutions, I could think of two. One is that when Nina is calculating how far that object has drifted with its plate solving, it knows exactly. It could tell the mount, hey, you're going to the right, 5 pixels every 10 seconds, and down 1 pixel every 10 seconds, too much. And because it's consistent, the drift is consistent. But it should be able to tell the telescope to adjust its tracking so that, it may not be like tracking when you use a star scope that's staring at a star, but it would be a lot better than just totally open loop right now with just the 2-star alignment.
Yeah.
It could easily update the tracking and drift and be a lot more
tracking.
Accurate. The other one is Serial is super fast and almost good. It's as good as quality stacking as PixInsight, I think.
Okay, this is the software. Very interesting points here for the future. New features with the software. The cameras, I'm sure they will be much better. By the way, this channel that we are watching the video from, they also have loads, because it's Astro Imaging Channel, so it's on the title, on the name. They have sometimes good expositions about good shows about this topic, the cameras and stuff about astrophotography. It's all about astrophotography and telescopes. So I recommend you to go there and subscribe them and subscribe our channel, of course. If you're enjoying the show, remember to give it a like to spread it all over the world. And give a like. But go there because they usually have good stuff. I'm telling this and for you to not understand. I don't allow any promotion of YouTube channels on my Discord and on my YouTube and here on the chat. If I see someone here promoting my YouTube channel, my video here, my video there, will be warned, or if I don't know him, will be directly banned. I am the one that owns the channel, and I am the one that chooses the specific channels that I will bring here, okay? Just for the record. So please be careful with that.
and almost as good as APP. If PixInsight or APP could just get half as fast as Zero, then it'd be done. Also,
okay, basically we are done with the. I don't want to go further in. We have the important aspects here: the software, the cameras for the future, the correct tracking. I will add just one that some of you will not like, because hold on, let me just change the things here. Let's put some music as usual. I will add only one before Stephen Miller jump in, and that it's the one that I talked before, to have a button to post-process everything and get rid of that for me cumbersome, so, and save time. So I will add that to the future, but even that Stephen Miller didn't refer here, that feature, I'm pretty sure it will happen in the future. Okay, let's welcome Steve Miller, our hero tonight. Welcome, Steve Miller.
thanks, Diego.
I'm a bit silly, you know, but it's like that. Okay, Stephen. Hold on.
With the simplicity of software, Astro software is incredibly complex. And, you know, way back in the days before the Macintosh came out, it was really difficult to use computers, you know, before Windows, and people were using function keys. And there was a lot of people that didn't get it, you know. They didn't realize that computers with a mouse and Windows and all that could be easier to use. And I think this astrophotography could go through the same, you know, renaissance. I've used all those tools, you know, PixInsight and so forth, and they're incredibly complex. And I think people take pride in mastering complex software. It almost locks everyone else out, and it makes their skills kind of like a magic art. And I agree with you. There could be a lot could be done with simplifying everything.
Yeah, even, you know, it's different opinions in this, of course. The thing is, and the difference between us is that you enjoy that process, and many people does, and I don't. In addition to that, the time I have editing in each people have his own things. The time I spend editing videos for YouTube and being here on screen, the screen time that I have, it's enough. More than that, if I will add even a strong astrophotography moment with even days processing now a bit, then another day again, let's process a bit more and do this and do that, it will spend much time to me. In addition to that, there are people that, even not having my life, they have a 9-to-5 work and family and loads of stuff, and they like to watch the sky as we do here, but they don't have the time. Sometimes I ask them, why, people from EAA, why don't you do astrophotography? Some of them answer me that, oh, I like to watch. Perfectly fine, it's what I do. But some of them say, I don't have time to that. I would like, but I don't have time to learn all that learning curve. Maybe in the future, I don't know. You see. But I wanted to show your work, and this interview I was surprised when I saw, and I will contact him. Then I realized that it was you because of the document. When I saw the document, hey, wait, this is the same guy that I've been talking in Cloudy Nights. And that different perspective, I think it's important, because although we are different in the final part of the process, you continue doing the post-processment, there are people here, and I know in my community, that like that have time to do that, and that want to learn that astrophotography. So any question here, community, please place any question for Stephen Miller. Take the chance now that he is here with us. Let me see here the chat. You you are always asking questions. Now take the chance to ask to a different guy, with different perspectives. You are a celebrity.
You can also I don't know in your.
I knew they will love it. And tell me if you like this format. I know that some of you told that you like, because I will be doing once in a while this section. Come on, any question? Don't you have any question for him? Why are you so shy today?
Yep. You can also in your show notes, if you want, I can always give you links to the images that have been taken, so they can people can always look at them.
Yes, you have one link only, or a bunch of links to each image?
Yeah, Cloudy Nights link, and then probably an Astro Bin link would be.
Okay, if one link is better, because in one, don't you have one link to? If you have Astro Bin, they have a user interface, no? A user list of pictures there, no? In Astro Bin.
Astro Bin. So I used to put it all on the Cloudy Nights, and then but it has a lower quality, so I started to
post here in the chat if you have, or post here in the chat, and I push them. I pull them to the screen. Do you have the link there? Oxize, I don't own Adobe.
There's a question.
But this can be what? One question for you, Steven. Have you used the Dwarf 2?
What is that? I don't even know. I obviously haven't, because I don't even know what it is.
Is this?
Oh yes, okay. One of the it's one of the all-in-ones.
Look,
so here,
you do like this,
all-in-ones. I think
go.
The all-in-ones are I haven't used it, but I've actually been really excited about some of these new products coming out. You know, the Vespera and so forth, because it's exactly what Diego was saying. This has been way too difficult for people, and so now there's companies that are kind of, I guess you can say, Appleizing it. You know, they're doing it all in one to make it simple, and yeah, they're kind of expensive for what they are, and so the people who do traditional astrophotography will always poke at them and go, well, look, I can do that a lot cheaper if I put together my own rig and everything and learn all the software. But the problem is that that's extremely difficult to do, all this together and all the software together again. So it's like it's one click and you set it up and go, because the technology should enable it. And so I think that these kind of products are just going to improve. And I think it's a little upsetting for some of the classic astrophotography folks, because this stuff is going to catch up to what they're doing. You know, I was watching the images people post from their Vespera over the last year, and they've just been getting better and better. And so I think there's a lot of future for those kind of products.
Yeah. I also think that these products will have loads of good future, but I still think that they will never replace the aperture of a telescope, like the Newtonian or the Dobsonian or whatever, because as you saw, I have one, and even the difference for the Vespera or Stellina or Eviscope or whatever, they are more expensive and they are better, of course, but none of them, I saw loads and loads of pictures all over the internet, and none of them can do what you do and what I do, and especially what you do with your pictures. There's no way that you get that picture without faking it. There's no way to get that picture with such an aperture, such a tiny aperture as these telescopes have. So there's a place for both, no? Don't you think?
There is a place for both. And certainly like companies like Skywatcher, they can put just a few software features in their scope and then build an appliance. So you can just say you buy it and you want to do observing. Now you want to do astrophotography.
Yeah.
They can build a little appliance that attaches to the scope and does everything these computers do. It does the stacking, tracking, everything. And maybe you put your DLSR in it, or maybe you buy a small planetary camera. But they should provide something where you add this add-on and it does everything. And so you don't have to, so you can start with a telescope and then you can start with this appliance. It's kind of like with people buying the ASI Air, which is an appliance for traditional astrophotography, which is basically a little mini PC that automates a lot of the tasks and makes things simpler. And even the traditional astrophotographers are saying, wow, how that made their life simpler. Well, it's because they took a lot of things that you had to string together yourself and they integrate it into a package. That can be done with these Dobsonians. And so again, like I said, there's been 20 years of effort with traditional equatorial astrophotography systems. If they just took a small percentage of that effort and pointed towards making these Dobsonians and some of these other systems easier to use, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there. They're a lot easier.
Yeah, I think the same way. There's another question here. Steve, what's your opinion on EAA such as the Dwarf? That's already answered. Format is good. Thank you. I'm mostly shy because I feel I don't have enough experience with the SO process yet. My current imaging stage is somewhere between Sharpcap live stack output and beginner raw processing. You see what I meant about the people wanting to grow further away from EAA. What do you have to tell to, because I'm usually my mindset is EAA, and I don't have too much to say about astrophotography because I'm lazy enough to do that. What do you have to say to those people like Clef and me that learned already EAA? They can do what I do, but they have that desire to go further. What do you recommend to them? What do you have to say?
A couple of steps. One is that you can take your EAA image and you can save it, and then you can bring it into a kind of a general editing program. You know, it doesn't have to be Photoshop. That's pretty complex, but there's one called Affinity Photo, which is kind of a Photoshop clone. It costs $60, I think. It's not too expensive. You can bring it in and do little adjustments to it. You know, Affinity allows you to adjust, you know, the contrast and the saturation. And Affinity accepts some sophisticated plugins from like the Topaz denoise type plugins. There's one called RC Astro Noise Exterminator and so forth. And they do an amazing job. So what you can do is I've taken EA images I've had on my Dobsonian and process them afterwards. And you get pretty close to a traditional deep sky photo with those. So I think that you can take those images and then learn some of those processing techniques. So take it one step at a time. That's one. If you go the full route of saving off the images and then stacking them in one of these stacking programs, you are taking a big jump in complexity. Some are easier than others. None of them are totally easy. AstroPixel processor is probably one of the better ones, but it's still not that easy and it's kind of expensive. Cyril is, you know, all these require you to, you know, follow a lot of instructions and a very certain recipe, and then you have to process it afterwards and stretch the images, and where the EAA does that a lot for you. So unfortunately, there's not an easy, I wouldn't say there's an easy kind of step-by-step where you can just slowly increase the complexity. Sometimes you have to kind of take a leap to get to the next level. And that's where this simplicity needs to be solved, because it's not all there yet. Right now, I would take your EAA image and kind of learn how to do some editing on it with an image editing program, because all these astrophotographers in the end do some image editing to you know, optimize it.
Okay. And here's a trend again. You mentioned the Dwarf 2. What about the Unistellar Eviscope 2 digital telescope? You see the trend?
Yeah. I think all those telescopes, they have slightly different capabilities. Obviously, some are meant for a little bit more for electronic assisted astronomy. Some are kind of deep sky. But I think they all, again, I see them all very positively. I think these are great developments. I look forward to all those startups, essentially, what their next generation can do. I think it's a good trend. I think it will kind of put a little fire under the other traditional gear manufacturers that, you know, you can do more and make things simpler.
But it's better now. Remember that at the beginning on Cloudy Nights, some of them were really angry about these products, and that's not a telescope, but it is a telescope. But now it's better. They are accepting. Yeah. Let's see more. Too loco. Mr. Miller, could you explain the process for short exposure, non-tracked photos with a Dob? There is a few people with manual Dobs and DSLRs, and that could help them get started.
Okay, so so what he's talking about is if you have a Dob that's not motorized at all, I think, and so it's just sitting there staring at the sky, it doesn't move with it. So whenever you do that, of course, everything's drifting past the telescope. And they call that the drift method of astrophotography, where, you point at a fixed point of sky. Maybe it's, usually you do this with planets. You point it to Jupiter. As Jupiter slowly goes through the field of view, you take a bunch of pictures, and then you stop, and then you reposition the scope a little bit, and then Jupiter comes through again. You take a bunch of pictures, and you do that enough times, then you can stack the images of Jupiter. It's obviously more cumbersome. You can do that with, most objects. There's this rule about your exposure time. They call it the rule of 500. I'm not going to go into the details, but essentially there's a way to calculate that based on how big your scope is, and what kind of camera you have. You can calculate what your exposure time needs to be. Typically, if you don't track at all, you're talking about exposure times of about a second, I think, maximum, around that. So you take these really, really short exposures, and with planets, of course, you're taking super short exposures. So it's cumbersome. It can be done. There's a person who was pinging earlier that does it, and but it's just more difficult. Obviously, it's much easier if the telescope roughly tracks the target. That certainly makes things easier.
Okay. Now we have another one here. You see, my community is very active. Hi, good night all. Steven, do you think AI will play an increasingly important role in AF? And in what ways you can project on this?
I think I meant AI in AP, maybe?
Maybe. You see that? Are you noticing the trend behind the minds?
Yeah. Well, they're obviously using some of these for some of the imaging algorithms, the training-based sharpening, star removal, noise removal, and they're the best algorithms that people have seen. They're kind of really changed the quality of images people are getting. So yeah, there's no doubt that these training-based, AI-based algorithms for astrophotography has been important. It's been an important development. I don't know where else we will see this. I can see that some that could probably correct for certain types of defects better, because, like, for instance, you're taking pictures, this drift method of astrophotography. Well, if you take exposure too long, everything's going to be smeared a certain direction. The stars will be oblong. You can imagine imaging algorithms that kind of know that you're drifting a certain amount and kind of corrects for that, puts everything back in place, so to speak. So I think we'll continue to see improvements there.
Yeah, that's a great point of they use fair use, if we can tell by like this, the fair use of AI without damaging all this work that astrophotographers do, and the correction of those problems that we usually have doing astrophotography will be great help. Now, any thoughts again on Unistellar Eviscope 2 digital telescope?
I haven't used one. I've read reviews of the various scopes. I can't remember what they added to the Eviscope 2 over the Eviscope, to tell you the truth. I'm not up on the additions, so I don't really have thoughts on the Eviscope 2, just because that particular one I haven't looked into.
Yeah, basically you can take the points that we and Steven talked about. As a whole, this kind of products will be applied there. Then it's a matter of preferences and budget. Antonio Cortes. Nina, does it have the ability to control the Go-To? I have it, but don't use it since it seems too complicated for me. I prefer Sharpcap Pro.
Yeah. So Nina does have the ability to control the telescope. It's pretty sophisticated. So it can not only control the camera, and you can control the exposures and take pictures, but it can also control all the various types of hardware you have. So it can control the telescope. So for my telescope, the Orion Go-To Dob, it plugs, you take a cable, a USB cable from your computer, and you plug it into the bottom of the hand controller, which has a little USB spigot. And then Nina, you turn it on, you load up a driver, and Nina sees that your telescope's on, and then it can control it, up, down, left, and right. You can tell Nina to go to an object. After I've done my 2-star alignment, I tell Nina, go to Andromeda Galaxy, because Nina has a database of all the deep sky objects, and you can search for deep sky objects, and then you can say, go to this object, and the scope will just magically start whirring off and going, and then it'll take a picture with your camera. It'll see that it's not quite there, and it'll say, "Oh, got to move it a little bit more." Okay, now I'm here, and then sure enough, it shows up in the picture of the camera. It's perfectly centered, and so Nina will do that. And then when you use Nina to take exposures over an hour, the target will slowly drift out of view, and you can tell Nina, well, if it gets more than 10% off of the frame, put it back. And so Nina will then, as soon as it drifts off too much, Nina will say, "Oop, I got to stop." And the telescope will move a little bit, and then it'll start again. And Nina will, all night long, will keep that target centered in the telescope. So it's very powerful. But it's this software is not simple to use, and so you have to know how to write these Nina scripts and so forth, and it takes time to learn. There are some great videos on how to use Nina and resources, so you can search for those and find those, and so I think Patriot Astro has some good stuff. So there's a lot of resources out there for learning it. But again, it's definitely a learning lesson. There's nothing simple. There's no way to make astrophotography right now just super simple. You're definitely having to learn quite a few things right now.
And clarify me, the image you showed earlier from a frustrated Dob owner, skilled software processing, reminds me of my current images with 5 minutes of integration time. Okay, it's just a sentence.
Well, if you got that image with 5 minutes of time, that's actually pretty good. That's a pretty short amount of time. That person who was frustrated probably had that image after 2 hours of time, right? So there was a lot of information in that image that he wasn't able to bring out, and that's where the skilled processing did. That's M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy. 5 minutes integration time, which is typical of what you get in a lot of EAA. If you're doing something at a gathering, you want to look at a target for a few minutes, then go to another one. If you got that image there, that's probably not too bad. But if you processed your image afterwards with all these tools these astrophotographers use, I bet you that image would look even better. Even with 5 minutes of time.
Okay. This is Dwarf 2 is great for my EAA. I still use my 18 and ZWO2. You see, they are compatible.
Yep.
GIMP is pretty good for editing, and it's free. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. GIMP is also another kind of Photoshop-like application. I've used it. I was an Affinity user for years on the Macintosh, so I just kind of gravitate to that. But I have used GIMP, and it's pretty good too.
I am happy you like the trend. I turned up to a local astronomy club with my Equinox and was asked to leave. They seemed so fossilized here in their view. That's the word.
You gotta go is find friends that have them. Next time, show up with 6 of them.
I bet in the town they say, "Oh, that guy I know. That guy." With that machine, he thinks it's a telescope. The guy with that thing. Well, you see, it's they will lose. It's like that. Anyone that will not adapt to new AI, to stuff, and new products in the market will lose, and that's it. It's
such a black art. It has been such a black art that I think people pride themselves in being in a limited club of being able to do something, and I think emotionally it's kind of difficult to know if let's say they build a device now you can go buy for $1,000, and it does take really good astro photos. You just set it up and like a lot of these scopes prove about. But let's say these photos are really competitive with what astrophotographers are doing.
Yeah.
All those things they learned for 20 years and all that equipment. Yeah, that's kind of hard to take.
And that's what happened with the Dobsonian also, because they spend loads of money in gear, and now I try to put in their shoes, and now they look at wow, this guy with, and even the live stacking, just a quick astrophotography, and he took such a great picture. At least it's my experience. And they get angry. They shouldn't, because I try to see in the opposite way. Now I'm doing like this. I'd like to do like this. But if tomorrow someone or the market or whatever, if a group of people bring a new way to work with a Dobsonian or something, I will not stick with my mindset now, and I will try to take benefit of that, if any, to improve and adapt to new things, or even if it's not a Dobsonian anymore and it's another thing, the Dobsonian feeling and simplicity, it's still here because it's my personality. That will not change. The products and the material things will change, but the passion for the sky and the way to do it may be different. But well, thank you for the recommendation. I've only used GIMP for levels, curves and simple extensions. I'm a bit more comfortable with planetary imaging since it's simpler. PEEP, AutoStacker, ResiStacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Planetary imaging is simpler, and I started with that. And yeah, I agree. It's simpler. You can take planetary imaging software. There are a few deep sky objects like globular clusters you can use and pretty much use the same software. But in general, I agree. And I do planetary imaging and lunar, and they're easier. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that one I also do because I have no choice to process the frames or the video. I have to pass through that process or post-processing with those different softwares. I wish though that I could have a software that does it all without needing the ResiStacks, the AutoStacker and the PEEP. One software, there's Astro Surface, I think, but I installed it, I tried. I don't know if you tried already, Astro Surface. You did?
I have not. I'm basically an AutoStacker register.
Yeah. At the end it's simpler. But hello Ray. Okay. Let me see this one. From Marco. Steven, I find it crucial to plan the DSO observation, no matter if I do EAA or visual. What is your opinion on that? What do you recommend for DSO planning? Any software, books?
Okay, interesting. So I use Stellarium on, so I use a couple things. One is you can use Nina for just planning, because Nina has a big database of objects and you can search based on various criteria. I want to look for galaxies. I want to look for this. I want to look for anything that's above 40 degrees in the sky, or that it's a visible, at my location at 9 p.m. or something. So that's nice. Then Stellarium, they have web Stellarium, is pretty nice too. You can kind of, search for objects and see when it rises and sets. There's also a guy on Cloudy Nights that has a spreadsheet that has all the deep sky objects, and you can kind of sort and search and so forth. And he has his top 100 and top 200. It's kind of meant for astrophotographers, and it has thousands of objects in it, and so it's called the Deep Sky Compendium, I think, and that is Gary M., I believe his name is. And in my guide, which you'll see the reference to, I reference his, and I have a list of his top, I think, 200 in the back in the appendix that he's listed. So I basically, what I do is I kind of search through those, and I usually get an idea, a list of possible ones. And then I kind of find out which ones come up at the time that's available for me. Maybe I'm only going to do it in the early evening, or maybe I want to do it after the moon sets. And also in my yard, I have a lot of trees, and so I can't see everywhere. And so it's like, is this one going to be behind the trees or not? And so I kind of sort through, and then I find one. And then the second thing I have to do is I have to find a couple good alignment stars, because this Dobsonian, when you do a 2-star alignment, you have to be able to see the stars. I have a lot of trees, so I also have to plan what stars I'm going to use, and I use Stellarium for that. I just kind of go, okay, this is the time, and I kind of dial the time right, and I just kind of look around at the bright stars and go, okay, I think I can probably see that one, and then I write the names down, and then when I go to the alignment, I kind of look up the star and go to the first one and then go to the second one. So, but Stellarium is a pretty good tool for that.
Yeah, Stellarium is the way to go. It's what I use. I go outside, watch the constellation. Okay, we have this, and this. I go to Stellarium, and a trick. It's something I do is and that you should do over time. In Stellarium, you have the bookmarks. If you find a nebula or some objects that you like, you always bookmark it, because next year it will be easier, as I do in live stream sometimes, what we are going to watch. And I watch all the bookmarks. They are signed they are showed in the map, and I can choose with you easier and faster. So Stellarium is very, very good. Okay, let's go. Some clouds. Nina. Yes, it's true. You can also connect Nina to Stellarium and tell it to target the object you selected in Stellarium. It's really great. And in Sharpcap also.
Yeah.
Now you can connect everything.
And I will admit that, all the stuff I've done, it's still just scratching the surface of all the things that can be done. There's so many different types of software and ways to connect things. It's it's beyond my capacity to learn everything.
Of course.
Too many different types of programs.
At the end, we choose what we think we like the most, or it's easier. If, for instance, someone that it's used to Photoshop, right, it's easier to choose Affinity Photo or a PixInsight or even GIMP, because the user interface is very similar. So, but I don't like those.
The little phone apps that you'll point up the sky and it'll show you the sky, like Sky Safari or Star Walk.
I use it a lot.
I don't know my stars, I mean, I know some of my stars, but I'll go out and think, okay, what star is that? So I go up and it's like, okay, that's Arcturus. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
I get it. So it kind of helps me kind of orient myself.
Yeah, I use it a lot outside. And now another question from Tech World. Steve, for people with astigmatism and have to wear glasses while viewing in a Skywatcher 300p, any advice for eyepieces with long eye relief?
Oh, interesting. That is kind of beyond me. I mean, I do have observational, but I don't have good advice. I do believe that if you use I believe some of the low power eyepieces tend to provide more eye relief. And I believe, and you might have to check this, that if you want to have higher power with good eye relief, sometimes if you use a lower power eyepiece with a Barlow, that you still get some of the eye relief as opposed to just going to a high power eyepiece. You might want to give that a try. One thing I've found is that going to EAA is kind of nice for people who have a hard time looking through a scope. I mean, some people just have a hard time. They just can't really get their eye in the right position and so forth. And it's, so sometimes putting a camera in there and having it all come up on the computer screen is kind of a way to cheat. Then everyone can look at it.
Yeah, that's why EAA is so powerful. We can use it to help us to watch. But I do visual. I like to... it's a good question for you to post on Cloudy Nights on the visual eyepieces, no? I think it's eyepieces.
For someone to do that on the
There's loads of people there that have that problem. Loads of people there. I saw...
That's a good
astigmatism. If you write on the search box astigmatism, and it will show loads of people with that problem. I remember. They are good on visual, and they have an history, and that's the thing. Visual was the thing many years ago, so they still there. Old people that I use GIMP and Serial that work great, of course. Which one? See. Another planning software that I find useful is Astro Planner. It integrates many catalogs into one place.
I'll take a look at that.
Sky Safari.
A lot of good tools out there. They really are.
Yeah. There are loads of good tools. It's right that the question of if you like, well, Steven, from Stars and Night Vision. Do you keep track of the discoveries by the James Webb Space Telescope? And do you think the Big Bang may have to be thrown out of the window? Good question.
So what they're referring to is some of the measurements of the expansion rate of the universe. You know, there's more than one way to measure it, and they've been getting more and more precise on these two measures, but they don't agree. So it used to be they were kind of imprecise. They thought, well, there's a lot of overlap, so there's some real answer in there. And as they got more precise, they actually drifted apart. And it's like, well, you know, these don't agree. And so I think, I don't know, throwing the Big Bang out of the window would be how I'd straight it. What I'd say is there's some mysteries there, you know, with the dark matter and the expansion accelerating, that are some fundamental mysteries that we have no idea what's going on. There's still, you know, it's kind of like quantum mechanics. They don't know, you know, like even Richard Feynman said, I think it's safe to say that no one understands quantum mechanics, you know, one of the best physicists in the world. I mean, there's mysteries hidden in the universe that we aren't even close to answering yet. And I think that's what James Webb Space Telescope has shown us, is that there's still some big mysteries there, and we're not very close to answering them.
Yeah. And by the way, in connected to this, I was telling about the old people on Cloudy Nights. Be aware that when I tell old people, it's because they have a great history of, and they are older than most of us. But about quantum mechanics, I remember another night I was watching a video with an interview with, I think it was Penrose, about quantum mechanics. And the guy has 80, I don't know if 86 or more. And I was having such a trouble to follow what he was telling that I had to rewind and rewatch to understand what he was telling. And his mind at that age was perfectly clear. And when I talk about here in this channel about dinosaurs, it's the mindset. There can be 18-year-old boys with that mindset. It doesn't have to be with the age, okay? Just for the record, don't get angry about it. Okay. Yeah, is the best. Well, visual is like living in the Stone Age. Gave up visual years ago.
It's a personal.
Don't go to the Astro Club.
Yeah. See something, you know, I like all of it. You know, sometimes if you're in a dark sky location and you have a big telescope and you're directly seeing a nice bright globular cluster,
Yeah.
or me just looking at a bright star in a big scope, it's so bright it almost hurts, and it's just amazing. You get a real feel for how bright those stars are. So, you know, I think there's something to be gained in all aspects of it. But EAA, I think, has been a great invention, frankly. I can see stuff in my backyard just directly with the EA that I can't see in the eyepiece, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. I still love a lot those objects. For instance, now the M13, the Hercules cluster, I love it because the clusters, when we watch from an eyepiece, at least with me, with my eyes and brain, I feel I see they are shining. They seem to be in movement. They are not static as we see in the EAA image.
Yeah.
I don't know. They bright a lot with a good telescope, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you, and also you to be here. I gave up visual due to my glaucoma and field of view problem, and have never looked back. That's the most part of people do.
You know, question is that people who have difficulty in looking through eyepieces, it's not physically that easy to do, frankly, and that's where EAA really helps. I think it just makes it more democratic, frankly. More people can actually see the night sky with EAA. Yeah, for sure, love it. And that's the reason, of course, that's the reason. Now, from Clefamy, can you recommend a filter to use in my Bortle 8 Plus backyard? I know you and Tiago are in lower Bortle sky, so your filters are usually less aggressive. I can. You know, filters you basically pay for how narrow they are. In other words, how much of the light pollution they throw away. So you can get a low cost filter. A ZWO has one. I can't remember exactly how much it is. It's like $150 or something, and it maybe throws away like 90% of the light pollution. So that's good. Then you get something like the IDS NBZ. It's a highly rated filter. It moves about 95% of the light pollution, and it's about $250, very approximately. Then you can go to something like the Optimum L Ultimate, which just came out, highly reviewed, and it's well rated because they don't create defects. Some of these create defects. They create halos around stars and things. This L Ultimate doesn't, and it's about $320, $330, but it throws away 98% of the light pollution. It's amazing. The bandwidth of the two bands for oxygen and hydrogen are only 3 nanometers wide. That's like 1/100th of the entire bandwidth. So each one is just 1/100th. And so the sky is really dark when you put that filter on, and the only thing that comes through is those 2 bands. So depending on how your budget, and then and also we talk about exposure times. You can still use short exposures for these filters. It's just the narrower the filter is. One issue of short exposures is you're not always taking full advantage of what the filter provides. So that's one thing. Another thing is with real short exposures, your stars are going to get dim. Even the star count will start going down. It's cutting out so much light. So it's just something to be aware of. I bought the IDAS NVC because it was fairly narrow band, but it wasn't extreme, because I was using short exposures, and I was a little concerned about would I still see enough stars so that the stacking software worked. Well, it turns out that concern was overblown. There's plenty of light from the stars still. And so I could have gone narrower. So with my 12-inch scope, I can easily use that L Ultimate. And I was thinking about possibly doing that because when I shoot during the moon is so bright that even with my narrowband filter, there's still a lot of light pollution. And with your Bortle 8 skies, if you can afford it, that L Ultimate would be the best filter that you could get for a color camera today.
Yeah, the L Ultimate from Optolong, a recent one. It's very aggressive, comparing to the other ones, the L Enhance or the L Extreme. The L Enhance is the lower one, then the L Extreme, then the L Ultimate. Behind what Stephen was talking about, and I want to enhance this, is that the narrower, the more the light pollution is in your place, the narrower the band of the filter, the more aggressive it is, the better will work for you. That's why I chose mine is a very soft one. It's from Altair, and it has 35 nanometers. So usually the narrower they have less until 3 nanometers, and 4, 5, and so on, and they go 12 or whatever, but that L Ultimate may be around those numbers. 3, 5, I don't know. I have no idea.
Two bands of 3.
Of 3, you see, very aggressive. So it's they are very powerful. This is for all the people wanting to buy filters. If you live under light pollution, that's the way to go.
It will be if you've never used one of these filters and you put an L Ultimate, I think you're going to be kind of shocked, because when you take a picture, like even on these short exposures, like normally it's kind of like I can see the stars, I can hardly see the object, and then I put this filter on, and suddenly it's like this red object shows up, and it's just like, wow, where have you been hiding? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty extraordinary.
And for the ones, as I am an EAA guy, for the ones that do EAA, it will take, you usually come to my live streams and I straight away in the first frame, bam, I usually say bam, because the picture right away, a nice picture from the beginning. I'm aware of, and that's, you have to study that before you buy, or you should. I'm aware of the time that I will have to, you will see in the live stream when the filter arrive. It will be not bam at the beginning. It will be, we will have to wait some frames to get in and to start to see the image forming. However, at the end, imagine that I do 1 hour, go to the extreme, 1 hour in the live stream. the result in 1 hour will be hopefully better than a result without a filter or with a broadband filter at the same time, 1 hour. So it will delay that gratification that we get from EAA. I'm talking about that because I do EAA. Okay, let me see. Are there amateur infrared telescopes?
Well, actually, all telescopes can do infrared because they absorb it, and a lot of these cameras you buy, some of them don't have infrared filter on them, so you can take infrared. So I've done infrared on the sun with my planetary camera. Usually, when you use a planetary camera on planets, you actually put an infrared filter on it. In other words, you block the infrared. You usually get a better quality picture when you're taking regular shots of Jupiter. But you can actually do it where it blocks all the regular light and only lets the infrared light through and take an infrared shot. And doing Jupiter sometimes is interesting because like the great red spot is hotter than the other parts. So the cloud bands are suddenly heat bands. It's a very interesting picture. So you can do that to some degree. It's not deep infrared. It's not far into the infrared. It's kind of the near, just past what we can see. So you can, to some degree, do some infrared photography with deep sky.
Just want to add one thing. Of course, you will not have James Webb telescope with because it's infrared, but it's a different telescope.
Right.
But one thing,
yes,
of course, one thing it's important to know. I don't have. I may have. I may try that in the future. I never bought that filter or got from my sponsor AstroArt Finland because. I usually, one thing that I strongly recommend you to do if you want to buy a telescope, a filter, a camera, is to search online the results. Because watching the other results, you can do the same. You know that mindset? If you can do it, I can do it. And there is all the results I saw from a single infrared utilization. I mean, not mixing with astrophotography, post-processment, different filters and so on, that is different, but only using infrared pass, not the cut that I use, infrared pass, I didn't like very much the images. But I'm aware of one thing, and you should be, the infrared filter, pass filter, which pass only the infrared, will not have any problems with seeing. So it's a thing to take in account. If you have a bad seeing place, it will get rid of that basically because it will not affect.
Wavelength, it's inherently a little lower resolution. The longer the wavelength, the lower resolution your telescope is. But you're right, you're less impacted by seeing. So if seeing is terrible, it can actually be a little better.
Yeah.
Also not
or
very
those nights.
Light pollution. All these lights, these city lights, they're not infrared, and the moon's not infrared. So what some people do in really high Bortle skies, if they want to take a picture of a galaxy, which galaxy doesn't work well with narrowband filters, they'll put these infrared filters on, and they'll shoot some of it in infrared. It's not super sharp, but the moon doesn't. None of the sky pollution, very little of it's infrared, so it kind of cuts right through that.
Yeah. So another way to use, or a moment that you can't do nothing, but with an infrared you can. Actually, that thing with the galaxies, I use my infrared cut for everything. I experiment, at least for EAA, with my setup. I don't recommend you to follow me, any one of you. But when I use the infrared cut with galaxies, and I use a lot with here with EAA, but if I take the infrared off, I don't get a better picture. The background and the stars get all bloated. I really don't like the.
Start get really fast. So I've done some infrared, and I'll let you know that I've never really found a big advantage for it. I think some people have done some interesting images with Jupiter by mixing them and having some infrared.
Yeah.
But it's kind of pretty limited. So my infrared pass filter, which lets only the infrared through, I play with it, but I never found, good. It wasn't expensive. It cost $25 or something. So I was playing with it. But it's been sitting in its box for like almost a year now. I haven't used it for a long time.
Okay. Another question. Hold on. Steven, if you feel that it's taking too much time, you just say it's okay. Okay, I'm struggling to gain focus with my 150 PDS, not Adobe. Any advice? I suspect the same happens with Adobe when using a DSLR.
Focusing is challenging, and so there's one tool you can get. It's not very expensive to help with focusing if you're focusing with any type of camera, and it's called a batten-off mask. It's basically this sheet. It's like a disc that has all these angled lines cut in it, and you put it over the front of your telescope. And what it does is it makes the stars have this interesting pattern of these spikes on them. There's like 3 sets of spikes that go through the star, and the center spike, all you have to do is now focus it so the center spike kind of gets in the middle of the other 2 spikes, and then it tells you it's focused. So it's basically a tool that's kind of makes the stars turn into a diagram that tells you whether it's focused or not. And so you just focus it until the spikes are evenly aligned, and then you take it off and you're focused. And so as long as you're looking at a reasonably bright star, so sometimes you have to move it over to a reasonably bright star. You put this little mask on. You can buy them for like 10 or 15 bucks. You put this little mask on, and then you kind of dial and you have it where it's constantly displaying the star, maybe a shot every second or so, because stars are bright. It doesn't take long. And you just kind of slowly adjust it until the spikes are aligned. Then you're done. Take it off, then point to the object you need to point at, and you're focused. And you're focused for quite some time. Usually scopes stay in focus for a while.
Okay. Hello, Rafael from Brazil. Olá, Brasil. Hello, Tiago. Rafael from Brazil. What would be a good diameter to see binary stars? I leave that to you.
Okay. Well, it depends on the binary star. They're different separations. And so some you can just see with anything, with an eyepiece. They're widely separated. You can look at them through an eyepiece and so forth. And I'm talking about true binary stars that are actually going around each other. There's also star pairs that look like binary stars, but they just happen to be close together. One may be a long ways from each other, but as we're looking at them, they look like they're side by side. But true binary stars, some of them are wide enough that you could see in any small scope. And the other ones, you need a large scope, and not only that, but you have to use lucky imaging to separate them. And they're really hard to separate. And so it just really kind of depends on what star pair. But there are some that you'll need a 12-inch scope, and you'll need to use lucky imaging. You'll have to also have a good night of seeing to have that chance of separating them.
Yeah, I left that to you because I don't have the technical knowledge to answer you this question. But my experience is the 12-inch. When I use the 12-inch on visual with the 9mm eyepiece I have from Explore Scientific, I sometimes have some fun separating those stars, make them pop. Essentially, and that's what I suggest. The most easier ones like Pollux and those stars that are easier to separate and watch. But I don't have the technical knowledge. Let me see if we yeah. Is there an electronic filter maybe for the future to use on the EAA scopes?
I don't know what's meant by electronic filter. You can certainly, the filters we've talked about on them. Do you know what, Diego, what the...
Yeah, I don't know. The filters, what I learned about the filters, they have some absorb and some reflect, no?
Right.
Electronic, if they manage to have, I think in the future we will have loads of electronic in our bodies, everything, thankfully. But to last longer, at least, and to avoid certain problems. But in a filter, if they can do the same as the filter, why not? I don't know. I have no idea.
Variable, so you can dial it.
Yes, so you can dial it for different situations.
Okay. Yeah, so some of the modern filters are called interference filters, and how they work is that they have 2 layers, and if the layer is tuned to have a certain distance, then that determines what light it eliminates. And so I think what Diego's talking about is if you could have it so electronically, I mean, these are super small. I mean, we're talking about, atoms across. But if you could do it so that, it could be dialed, then you
Yeah.
can tune the frequency that gets passed and the frequencies that get thrown away, I guess.
Yeah, when quantum mechanics will be more explored, maybe we can do that. Why not? Another one. Let me see. I use a 12-inch Dob AZ294 Optolong L Pro. I've considered the IDUS NBZ filter. Usually exposures are 8 seconds at 325, gain in Bortal 7. Well, that's a good one for Steven. How will the EDAS affect my exposures? That's a good one for you.
That is. The Optolong Pro, I have to look up what its bandpass is. I can't remember. Let me just take a look here.
You don't have to remember those numbers.
I don't remember them all. Let's see. Boy, oh boy. Maybe they can type it.
While you search, let me just tell something. While you search, the reason maybe that can help you. I used the Optolong. I chose the Baader Neodymium. Let's say it's the same thing because they are broadband adapted to my situation, my sky. Why I chose this new Altair quad band filter, which is a narrow band filter, instead of the NBZ. Notice that I had to pay for the Altair because my sponsor, Astro Art Finland, which is a great sponsor here, they don't have that filter. I was willing to, instead of having an NBZ, which they have, and I should only ask them, I prefer to pay for one from my pocket and buy to Altair. Why is that? Because I thought it will adapt better to my sky. I may be wrong. We'll see in the future, next week. Because of the intensity, it's only 35, I think, nanometers, or 34 or 35, and it's not so aggressive. The NBZ, it's a bit more aggressive. Although, if I had to choose, if the Altair didn't make that filter and the filter didn't exist, would be the NBZ that I will choose for my Bortal 5. Now remember that now Steven will help you in that the Bortal is very important, but I believe Steven is on Bortal 7.
Yeah,
no?
So answer that question, you won't have to change your exposure time. So the Optolong L Pro is what's called kind of an aggressive light pollution filter. It lets quite a few of the bandwidth in. It blocks about half of the light from the sky. So it's good for galaxies and everything. If you got an IDS NBZ, you wouldn't use it on galaxies anymore. You use it on all the emission nebula, like planetary nebula, the emission nebula, and so forth. And you wouldn't have to change your exposure time. I use 8-second exposures. The camera you're using, the ASI 294MC, has pretty low read noise at 325 gain, and it's a fairly large pixel size, so you're in good shape. So just use the same exposure times. And what you'll notice is that the background will just be a lot darker. But if you use on galaxies, then everything's kind of darker. Galaxies still kind of come through, but you really want to use that on those colorful red and green and blue emission nebula. But you won't have to change exposure time. I use 4 to 8 second exposures with that filter all the time with a 12-inch scope.
So you are good to go with the NBZ.
You won't have to change anything. You'll just get better quality.
There are two NBZs. Let's make clear. There are the NBZ 1 or B1 or D1 or something, no? There are two different NBZ, no?
I think there's one called the IDS D1 or something. Then there's NBZ. I think they're two.
The NBZ, it's only one. Okay. Just make clear. And Ray, that's a good one. If you use too narrow of a filter with a RASA, you will start getting into band shift. You will need to get a filter for faster optics to correct for it. That's true.
Correct. So what happens is these filters have these narrow bands and they're cutting out all the light, but they're letting that one through. The problem is that when you put these filters on a telescope where it has a fast F ratio, the light waves are coming in at an angle, and that causes it to shift the light that it cuts out. And in theory, if you have a really narrow bandwidth filter and you put it in a really fast telescope, it will cause that band to shift where it misses the light you're trying to bring in. So like H alpha, all that beautiful red light, it'll actually will block it. And so what they do is, first off, there's reports that will show you how well that filter works for a particular telescope with a certain speed, like a fast RASA telescope. And so you just need to avoid those filters that don't work in that scope. Also, some of the manufacturers' narrowband filters will produce versions for different speeds, speed grades. So let's say this is the filter for f4 to s7, and this is the filter for f2 scopes. You know, and what they do is they shift it. They shift that band, so when you put it on your telescope, that also shifts it. It shifts it back to the right place, and so it's tuned for your scope. So just make sure that you're very, you know, it's obviously he's very aware that this happens, and there's ways to solve that. You avoid the wrong filters and always buy the right one.
Now, I want to give a shout out to this, again, the Astro Imaging Channel, because they have here, if you go to the home page of the Astro Imaging Channel, I hope you subscribe. Now, look, it works. Now they have already they are almost at 15,000 subscribers. You are very nice, guys. I have a great community.
There's a filter discussion there too.
Yeah, here. You go to the home. You go to the home page and you have here. You click here, Understanding Astronomical Filters, Jim Thompson.
Yeah, he does great reports. That guy.
You click here. Okay, and you will have a full explanation. It's very deep into the matter, but if you like filters, you can watch it. That explanation that Stephen just did of the angle of the light and the shifting of the band, all of those topics are into that video. It was one of the ones that I clicked to watch it, and it's very interesting to learn about filters. Okay.
Yeah.
Great to see you, your guest, Iago. Can you ask about using a derotator, Curtis?
That's a good question. So yeah, obviously we're using these telescopes that don't rotate with the sky. So what they do on large observatories, these giant telescopes they build on these mountaintops, you know, that are 8 meters across, those telescopes are not on equatorial mounts either. They're just too big. And so they rotate. So they're like our Dobsonian. They just go up and down and left and right. And so what they do is they just rotate the camera, because the camera is a lot smaller than the telescope by that time. And so they have a derotator. So even professional observatories do derotators. So why don't we? You can buy derotators. Pegasus, Astro, and some other manufacturers make some. They're in the $400 to $600 range. You can probably buy some really expensive ones too. And so it would work. You could get a derotator. They add some spacing. You know, it takes like half an inch or 20 millimeters to put it in to your train between the camera and the telescope. So you have to have enough space when you're in your focuser to do that. So that's kind of a challenge sometimes. And they cost money. And then some of them are meant to basically rotate the camera, not during your imaging, but just rotate it, you know, so you can get the camera in the right position when you start. And other ones are really accurate and precise and smooth, and they can rotate continuously, even while you're taking a picture. So you have to get the right type. I think that why I'm not personally using a rotator right now is they're kind of expensive, and my telescope does not have enough spacing. I think that if I had enough spacing between the focuser and the camera, which a lot of the Dobs do, mine just doesn't have it. Like all the latest Skywatcher have plenty of spacing. But if I had enough spacing and someone came out with a derotator that I knew worked, that cost maybe $250, yeah, I would buy it in a minute, for sure. So I think there is a future there.
Yeah, I know people that use that derotator. It's a bit expensive, yes, it's true, and it's a bit cumbersome. But if you have everything with electronics, it will add just one more thing to use if you have the money to buy it. There are manual derotators, a poor solution, but that one I could adopt, but I didn't, because I don't feel, and that thing with the space now with the stars on the Nexus and adding because I will add from my sponsor, I will get, that will be from my sponsor, the drawer for the filters to change the filters without having to take them off. That will have 21 millimeters. Then we have the stars on the Nexus. It will be too much things, and you have to think about that also. The spacing, it's very important. I want to make you, before I forget, a question myself.
Okay.
I like to, it's a different question. I like to ask this to the people every time. Do you believe there is any kind of life beyond Earth?
Oh, yeah, I think the odds are really high that there's at least simple life, like bacteria type life. And my reasoning for that is, even though we only have one example, which is our Earth, it formed, the best evidence is that it formed pretty darn quickly after the Earth cooled down. I mean, within like 200 or 300 million years. It's like as soon as the Earth wasn't just this ball of molten rock, and it kind of had oceans and water, you know, that some of the earliest rocks that are left have signs of life in it. So simple life formed pretty darn quickly. Well, and also that environment was still really harsh. So a really harsh environment, and it still formed quickly. Well, there's a lot of environments out there that we've already discovered that may not support life like we see today with trees and animals, but could support bacteria. And if bacteria form that quickly, you know, those planets wouldn't even have to last that long. And, you know, because we also talk about, will a planet last 5 or 6 billion years, you know? Well, if it lasts just 1 billion years, that might be enough. So I think that just the number of planets and the fact how quickly it formed here, I think that's pretty strong reasoning to be made that some simple life. So then you get to the complex life. I think that's a different question, because it looks like it took about 3.5 billion years for complex life to form. That they had simple life for billions of years, and then about 400 or 500 or 600 million years ago, we had this explosion of complex life. And it may have occurred a little earlier. You know, we just don't have evidence of it. But man, that's a long time. Even compared to the age of the universe, or the compare of the age of stars, that's a long time. So it took a long time for complex life to form, which kind of tells you something. It's like, that didn't happen right away. You know, was that like a rare event for it to take? Maybe it takes on average 20 billion years, you know, which the universe isn't that old yet. So I think that there's two questions to answer. I answer them both differently: simple life and complex life. And I think you can get two different answers. I think, yes, simple life could be fairly common. And I think we might find it could be very rare to have complex life, just because there's too many things that can happen to planets over about 3 or 4 billion years. Too many big rocks that might whack them, or a big planet comes by and throws it out of orbit, or and there's a lot of stars that don't last that long, you know. So I think I have two frames of mind depending on the types of life you're talking about. Yeah,
that's why I asked any kind of life. Any kind of life, of course.
Kind of life, then I think the odds are good. You know, I mean, we may not find it in our lifetime, and it's quite likely we won't find it in our solar system, even though we're looking. But when I just look at how many planets there are and the fact it formed quickly on Earth, I think it's out there.
Yeah, I think the same. By a matter of probability, and we are all the same in everywhere. So
all the stuff's everywhere. You know, the same stuff's going to be happening.
That will change everything. If any instrument now or in the future gets some sign of it, just a bacteria, only one, will change everything. Everything. It will be amazing. I hope I'm still alive to watch it. Let me see if we have. Yes, we have from Anaximandros. I read of a guy using the Rattan 29 like a broad infrared filter and getting good results in galaxies in the Dobsonian forum. What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. The Rattan is basically it's like a colored dye filter. That's what Rattan filters are. So Rattan 29, they name them with the numbers. So Rattan 29 is probably a deep red. Let me see. I'll look it real quick. So I think that, it's actually a kind of a yellow filter. Yeah. So I don't know. That's news to me. I don't really, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that would help. Frankly, I mean, maybe they got lucky and it kind of blocks some of the light pollution because it just happens to be that same color that, or the light pollution gets blocked. It's possible. The general consensus amongst a lot of the people who've tested filters is if you're doing galaxies, there's very few filters that really help. They emit light across the entire spectrum, right? And so it's really hard to kind of cut out light and help the galaxy, because you're cutting out the galaxy. I think there's, if you cut out just certain sodium vapor lights and so forth, and you have a lot of them in your area, I think you could probably do well. The problem is there's so much light now is LED lighting and from different types of light that it's just this big mix. And so it's really hard to do it. And that's why the narrowband filters work, because what you're doing is you're saying, I only want these 2 little things to come through or 4 little narrow bands. Well, that's a lot easier because you're just talking about what you're allowed to come through. But with galaxies, you kind of want everything coming through. And so it's tough. So maybe they're getting good results, but I think that also people find something and it works for them. And, have they done a scientific comparison of, with and without and all the same conditions and stuff, maybe they did. But those are tough to do. So not everyone does those really well. So sometimes people come up with an opinion based on some experience, but it may not be accurately reflect, the reality.
Yeah, Garnet says here that red works like a poor man's infrared, and it's very useful for looking for planets low on the horizon, especially when there's still light from the sun. We were talking about that before.
Yeah. Certainly colored filters help with planet viewing. I mean, because sometimes they'll just change the contrast because you're blocking certain things. So just plain, like if you have a way to kind of quickly swap between filters and you look at a planet and you kind of swap the different colors, it'll kind of help you see slightly different details on planets. There's no doubt about that. So color filters are helpful for viewing in certain situations, for sure.
Steven, one last thing. Do you know what is Discord?
Yes. The Discord, the chat server?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to make you a proposition because I was thinking while we were talking, and you can post the link and I will be glad to post the link to your pictures. But if I pull the link, it's once in a time and that's it. But one thing that we do here in my live streams is I have a section that is this one. Community pictures. So this section, I have different sections to have this a bit dynamic. And the community pictures it's very funny because I have a Discord server with a goal to keep us, the community. I as you can see, I appreciate a lot the community thing. And we still contact and communicate, well, some of us, outside the YouTube, outside the live streams, through the Discord, because it's easier and the beginners come and we help. And I have there a small section that is the community pictures, where people post their pictures. Well, any kind of pictures, even with iPhone. Some are bad, some are better. The goal is not to, as a contest, anything. There are great pictures there from many people from our community. But my proposition was for you, once in a while, when you remember, now in the future, you can do your observations, you have a nice pictures you want to show, to join us and post there when you want and have time. Just post there, because what I do is different than any other place. It's not like a social network group or something that you post pictures and that's it. It's over. And the next day, nobody knows about that. But in this case, I pull that section. That section is to pull those pictures, and we analyze the picture here. We see how beautiful it is, what was used to that picture, and I'm sure that our community will love to have once in a while one of your pictures there once in a while, and I can pull them also here and say, remember, Steven was here. He has a great job. He does a great job with Adobe and etc. And that way we can, in time to to make it happen more. I don't know if you know what I mean. Instead of one shot and that's it. Okay, it was Steven, it was here, and that's it. You have here the pictures. But once in a while, look what Steven just cocked in the sky with a 12-inch. Now beautiful. Your pictures are all beautiful. So I want you don't have to, but I want to propose you that it's free. It's just to log in and post there a picture whenever you want, so, if you want. But there's people that don't like Discord, I know, and so that
I use it now and then.
I leave it here because it will be fun to remember you again. I don't know if you know what I mean, to make you appear more in time instead of one shot and that's it. And that was the interview. The interview will be well, an interview. This was like an informal chat here with the community, and that was the goal. I appreciate you a lot. We have many things in common, at least with this. I feel I'm good on that in life. I feel that you are a good person. But at least you transmit good vibes to me, and that's very important here to me also. And it was a very, very nice moment that we have here, a pleasant moment with you, and you see that the community love it also. We are very dynamic and we like to learn more and more, and with you it's a very good reference that we have for Dobsonian Astrophotography. You do a great job on that. So I want to thank you for being here tonight with us.
If people see the video, I hope they enjoy it, and get more people out there taking pictures and doing some EAA. That's it'll be fun.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I will leave now. I will remember to close the live stream and post the links of everything of your document. Very nice document. Remember, people, if you are in a Go-To Dob and want to understand how things work, it's extensive, but you can skip the things that you don't want to read, or if you want to read them it all, it's very full of knowledge. And also the channel, Astro Imaging Channel, I will leave the link for sure. And if you want, send me anyway the link of your Astro Bean. You can send me if you want by Cloudy Nights, doesn't matter. And I will add it to this video description just to get the whole thing perfect. But I leave this off Discord to you. If you want, you will see that people will enjoy to watch your pictures. Okay? Okay. We say goodbye now. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time. Okay? Bye-bye, Steven. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. So people, I hope you enjoyed this a lot. It was good, eh? It was a good start of the section. We will have more of this. This section is the reaction. The reaction, where we will be once in a while reacting to some interesting stuff in the YouTube. Remember, next Saturday, members only live stream to deep down on Sharpcap sequencer. Let's break it down again to understand very well what's happening with your sequences at the same hour. And probably on Friday, if the weather allow, I think so, we will do a regular public live stream with a telescope, but watching and celebrating the full moon. This time is, I think it's the flower moon. If I don't forget, it's the flower moon. So thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.